And welcome, everyone. We are live. This is the 12th episode in our Torment series. So, let's continue. So, last episode, we explored a lot of the Caravanserai. And we spoke to a few people there. We found a pilot that was looking for his stolen ship, or the thief that stole his ship, and a blonde glowing fellow. We spoke to this guard for the Memovira and tried to gain an audience, but we don't have an appointment, so that is out of the question currently. But we are going to look to try to gain an appointment because this gate exits the city. And I would like to start checking out what is outside of the city. And it leads to the Bloom. And the Bloom is, the guard told us about it. This creature, being, living mass of tentacles and maws and all sorts of stuff that will apparently transport you to different lands if you feed it what it wants, and we don't know what that is. Apparently he fed one of his friends to it, but he regrets it and doesn't understand why he did it. I'm not sure why he did it either. He didn't have a reason, and he didn't hint at any reason, so we don't know what that reason is. So we leveled up last episode as well. All of our characters leveled up recently. I don't remember exactly if it was 10 or 11. It was a bit of a mix. But we have Kalisteg and Tybir, who are now both at tier 2, which is excellent. And Tybir is about almost halfway to the first step towards the first step in tier 2, which is exciting. So we explored a lot of stuff here in Caravanserai. We took a look at these airships. We went and we spoke to this knight over here that seems to have delusions of grandeur. But he definitely wants an adventure and a fight, so maybe we can make use of that information later. And so far, we have not discovered a way to get to this tunnel, which is the Cave of Last Words, which sounds like a very interesting place that I want to check out. The last place that we haven't really explored here is the bar. And maybe... So these are the Changing God cultists. I'm not quite ready to speak with them. So a few things on our plate. I want to try and find this airship thief because I would love to have a pilot as a friend. And so let's see what the quest description says, if it gives us any clues, or if we're just going to kind of have to wait until we come across him. So Master Renio, we spoke to him. An airship captain at the Caravanserai is looking for the man who stole one of his vessels. Until the thief is caught, he has grounded his remaining ship. So find the man who stole Master Renario's ship. According to Renario, the thief was below average height, had straw-colored hair, and he was also glowing. So that is what we are going to be looking for. So, let us continue looking around the city. Now, I saw these before. This thing here, this spherical pod is made of silvery metal and interlaced with ribbons of energy. I don't know if this is some sort of a transport pod. Let's see if we can talk to these silver orphans. Oh, we can. So, 2 silver humanoids stand near a small vehicle of indeterminate origin. Their skin has a reflective metallic sheen that makes them appear both apart and separate from the scenery around them. As you approach, both of them turn to face you. They have no mouths, and their eyes are a fathomless black, reflecting nothing. A name for these creatures rises from memory: Silver Orphans. It may not be the name by which they know themselves, but it's the name used by the Order of Truth. The Silver Orphans turn to stare at each other for several moments. Then the one on the right gestures at you in a complicated pattern. Minds of machines we seek. Know you any? Minds of machines we seek. Yes, we do, I believe. It could be the Master Foreman that would qualify for that. I don't know exactly what this Silver Orphan means. But if we take it at its face value, then yes, we do. But I don't know what they want with them, so let's see if we can find out. Although you can't understand their gestures, you can hear their thoughts, and we can scan thoughts. I don't know if this is a required ability to be able to communicate with them. Why you seek the minds of machines? Do you mean machine intelligences? That's what I assume they mean. And can you speak? So why do you seek the minds of machines? They stare at you impassively, as though they can't hear you at all. The one on the left kneels, using a foreshortened finger to trace lines and circles in the dust at your feet. Ripples radiate from a point, first a square, then a human eye, then an unrecognizable mass of interconnected dots. The Silver Orphan looks up at you, awaiting your reply. Any minds of machines, that we may find that which was lost. Okay, so they've lost something, and they believe that they are going to find it in, or it is, the mind of a machine. I doubt this, but maybe they are descendants of the creators who made them, the foreman in the underbelly. Probably not, but just a thought. Tell the orphans about the foreman in the underbelly. Tell the orphans about the peerless drones. Maybe it's them. I'll let you know if I find any. I don't know if I want to tell them, but I think I will. I don't know that they're evil or going to do anything wrong, but there's a few. So let's first tell them about the peerless drones and see what they say. You draw an approximation of the Reef of Fallen Worlds, indicating the location where you met the peerless drones with an X and copying the orphan's original drawing next to it. The one on the left crouches and adds a few quick strokes that you take to be a query for further information. One mind, or many, it thinks. After some thought, you draw one of the drones you encountered, then some more beside it for good measure, linking them all together in an attempt to indicate their connection to one another. The orphan on the right likewise crouches and stops your hands before turning its face to face its twin. Many, peerless, they recognize what that intelligence is, the peerless, which is good because then they can perhaps tell us if that's what they're looking for or not. Oh, they gave us something. Long moments pass before they look back at you in unison. Then they each reach inside themselves, withdrawing parts of an unidentifiable device. They fit the parts together, handing you a complete but curious Numenera, the likes of which you've never seen. You have the feeling they're very pleased to have this particular intelligence reported to them. Great help you provide, great thanks you receive. So we got conduit rings and a little bit of XP. I wonder, so we'll tell them about the foreman in the underbelly. I mean, they would find out eventually if they're here in the city, so let's go ahead and tell them. You sketch an approximation of the city's manufactory, including rough depictions of the foreman, careful to indicate how they tower over the human workers. Then you draw a line connecting them to the orphan symbol for machine intelligences. The Silver Orphans watch you intently until your drawing is complete. They turn to stare at each other. Then the one on the right reaches inside itself, its silver hand merging seamlessly with the glistening metal of its torso. An instant later, its hand is whole again and holding an object of peculiar construction. It drops the item in your hand. Payment, you assume. Glorious, we thank you. Take reward for your service. So last cast-off gains Cipher Sickness Minor Fettle, so we got another Cipher. We gained an item, Thermodynamic Detonation. And I'll let you know if I find any machine intelligences. Okay, let's take a look at those things that we got. So, the first thing we got is this, the Conduit Ring. So it's an ornament, it's an artifact. So grants abilities, energize, choose a damage type, confer energized, all damage dealt is converted to the chosen type. So I don't think we've encountered anything yet that is vulnerable to a specific type of damage, or if we have, I haven't been able to discern that. So I think that this will be relevant if we ever come across something like that. We see that it's an enemy is vulnerable to chemical damage or energy damage. Then we can go ahead and make all of our damage of that type. So it says, this is a set of 3 rings connected by thin wiring that can be placed over the index finger. The metal is cool to the touch, but the wiring pulses with weird energies. Once activated, the 3 rings together act as a power conduit, siphoning different types of otherworldly power directly into your strikes. So our mystical lore gives us some insight. With parts scavenged from the hulls of ancient vessels, this ornament was crafted into one functional whole by an ancient nano known as the Mintonian. His true name is lost to history, but his skill is undeniably beyond today's ken. So we get granted abilities. Energize. And I wonder, do we wear that? Yes, we do. It's an ornament. So I'm wondering, maybe we give that, because Tybir doesn't have other damage types. So let's go ahead and give that to him so that he has the capacity to take his damage and convert it to different damage types. So this will be useful if we're fighting enemies that have high evasion. I'm not sure if this will still, actually evasion may still apply. Even if we applied this, it'll just change the damage type. But this will give him some more options. I know that we have some options in terms of damage types for our ability. So we will give it to him so that he has those options as well. We gained another cipher. And what is the Fettle exactly? So -2 might pool is what this does. So it deals 15 energy damage to all characters in range. So it's a grenade is what it is. So we are going to give that to Callistake. She can have a grenade. Okay, great. And it has a range of medium, and it's all in immediate area. So all characters in range. I wonder if that's just a... Okay, the range is medium, so you can send it off. Okay. Okay, great. So I don't know what effect that's going to have, but I mean, they would have found out anyway eventually. Someone would have told them, so might as well be us. All right, so we've got some cultists here. I'm not ready to talk to the cultists yet. So we are not going to. We are going to wait. Here's some levies. I wanted to take a little bit of a closer look at them. Just because they're created by the Order of Truth in that life-sapping device. Which is interesting. A memorialist. Let's see if they have anything to say. Memovira. Oh, you startled me. I'm not all that used to being around so many people. These are merchants. Omadon. A name usually means that it's a character that will say something. So let's see what Omadon has to say. This robed man turns a golden, bespectacled gaze and a winning smile on you. He seems a charming enough sort, but it's clear he wants something from you and is perfectly willing to take it. Politely and with absolute guile, of course. At last, he says, someone who looks like they can see further than their nose. These Sagasites are as observant as rocks. He clasps his hands together, pleading. Please tell me you've seen a beautiful girl with purple hair. Her name is Persea. She is my beloved, but she suffers from a madness that causes her to fear everything. She can't stop running from imagined dangers, and I've been chasing her for, years now, trying to catch her and cure her before she hurts herself. Let's see what he's thinking. Imagine me a danger to her. Why, I brought her back. So we don't know what their relationship is, but apparently she's afraid of him. We don't know if she's actually afraid of everything, but she's definitely afraid of him. So it's a beautiful girl with purple hair, and her name is Persea. Persea, yeah.
I'll remember that.
So, one true love quest. I recently tracked her here to Sagas Cliffs, but none of these blind fools can remember seeing her, even though I believe she stayed here for some time. He grips your arm. Let me give you a description, so you will know her. She is heartbreakingly beautiful and wears winged hair combs that float around her head, constantly changing the arrangement of her purple hair. Please, if you see her or hear word of her, return and tell me. My name is Omadon, and I can be most generous. So, what caused Persea to go mad? He frowns, thoughtful. It is, I believe, some trauma associated with her birth or early life. We found that it can be overcome with love and care and certain medications, but even then, some lapses occur. It was during the last of these that Persea vanished. I've been on her trail ever since. I'm certain she will see clearly as soon as we are together. So I don't know if this is true, what he's telling us, but it does sound like if she sees him, that maybe that will fix it. So we may find out. How do you hope to cure her madness? With love, mostly, but also with certain ancient techniques I have learned in my years of study for the cooling and untwisting of fevered and knotted minds. I'm positive that once I am able to isolate her from the corrupting distractions of the world, I will be able to restore her to her true self. So let's see if there's any more details of Persea's appearance. As I said, she is hauntingly beautiful, with purple hair that floats around her head on winged combs. Her speech may seem confused, so pay no mind to what she says. It is only her madness talking. Once she is returned to me, I will be able to cure her. It may or may not be true. So what sort of things will Persea say when she's raving? Almost anything, but one of her more persistent delusions is that I am her enemy. Nothing could be further from the truth. When she is in her right mind, she loves me as I love her, but when her madness is upon her, his voice grows soft. It is more painful than truth can say. I would never hurt her. I must make her realize the truth. Simple, if I can find her. So it's good that his thoughts are telling us that he doesn't want to hurt her. That gives us a little bit of insight, and he doesn't appear to want to hurt her, but we don't know what he wants with her or why she's actually afraid of him. He could be lying. We'll ask how they met and see if it gives us any more details, and I think that'll be it for this guy. We'll see. We were at the same grave in the Valley of Dead Heroes. Oh, so the pilot flies to the Valley of Dead Heroes. We may end up going there. A mutual friend. And in sharing stories of our love for that friend, we found that we were kindred spirits and decided we did not want to part when we left the valley. He smiles wistfully. Odd that a place of death could give birth to something so beautiful and undying. There is so much truth in that story. Details are irrelevant where there is love. Okay, so there are some details, and he's kind of, avoiding them himself. So we don't know exactly what is going on, and it sounds like there's more to this story than he's letting on to us. So we will leave it at that then. Just farewell. And if we see her, maybe she will say some stuff to us that is of interest. Let's go down and speak to the barkeeper, see if we can learn anything about the Memovira, because that is a key interest of mine right now. I want to see what we can do with that. I mean, it may be that we don't come across anything yet, but we will continue to explore and find plenty more in this world. So, most of my customers are half-mad sailors, frustrated traders, and lost tourists. So here's a guy with a name, Explorers Sylph. So Sylph and Tarnak Hobbs and Sylph. Let's go speak to Sylph. Sorry, folks. Oh, she has gray hair. I don't think that that's who he was talking about, but you never know. Oh, and that's not her name, not Sylph, so it's definitely not Persea. This pretty young woman stands unnaturally still. Suddenly, her large, glassy eyes spring to life with a rattle and quickly lock with yours, before just as quickly snapping away. Her skin, as fair as porcelain, is cracked beneath several layers of dirt and faded makeup, and on the side of her neck you see what appears to be a small tattoo of vertical lines with glyphs etched at the bottom. For a moment, familiarity overwhelms you, disappearing as a minute shudder runs down her arms. Her gaze snaps back to your face, but not to your eyes. She's staring at your tattoo. Jerkily, her hand rises to touch her own. Well met. I am called Sylph. You note the slight pause before she pronounces her name. Her voice has a purring quality, which you can hear the spinning of countless spinning of countless gears. She coughs just once, and a small greenish cloud emerges from between her lips. How did you come by that mark? It's him, or is it, I assume, is what she is about to think, but those are her thoughts. So she recognizes us, and we did get an inkling that we recognize her as well. So, the usual way, no, we didn't. I'm the changing god, created this body myself. I'm a cast-off, I don't know, lie, I don't know you. Try to remember where you've seen Sylph's tattoo before. Alright, so it's taking us to some kind of memory. Anamnesis. You hear an echo of yourself and see in front of you a strange old man, gnarled by time and rabid with expectation. On his neck, weathered and sagging, you see the same series of vertical lines etched into his skin, a faded map to a time or place that no longer exists. An inadmissible period of time has elapsed without an answer. Conclusion. I will rephrase the question, she says as the memory fades. How did you come to have those marks upon your skin? So she seems to actually be some kind of not an automaton, but some kind of, she has some kind of mechanical aspect to her body. So how did you come to have those marks? Well, really, I'm not sure. We don't really know how we have them, so I'll say, I don't know. She says nothing for several moments, her iris is contracting and expanding in a rapid shuddering motion. Uncertainty acknowledged, she says eventually. She regards you, head tilting to the side with a series of small ratcheting noises. You have the absurd impression the motion is meant to be flirtatious. I hope you will answer another question for me. I have a riddle that it may please you to answer, she says, brushing her hair coquettishly back from her bare shoulders. It is very odd. She pauses a moment, then recites from memory. What comes in with breath and out with a word transmutes upon death, but can't be conferred. So what comes in with breath and out with a word transmutes upon death, but can't be conferred. The words sound vaguely familiar, resonating in your mind even after she stopped speaking. Well, let's see if I can figure out this riddle. So, old. It's what you've done for centuries. You told me. So she does remember us now, clearly. And it's like a test, it seems. So we'll see. I'm going to say try to remember where you've heard the riddle before. The words sound familiar, but something about them is subtly wrong. Just when you think you've grasped the difference, it slips from your mind and you're left with only Sylph's expectant gaze. So, it might be life. Let's read it again. What comes in with breath and out with a word? Maybe not life. No, it's not life then. Transmute upon death but can't be conferred. So, comes in with breath. Nothing. No. I mean, there are things that come in with breath. Out with a word, no. Transmutes upon death, but it can't be conferred. I mean, nothing can't be conferred. Consciousness, does consciousness come in with breath? Transmutes upon death, but can't be conferred. I guess, maybe, I'm not sure what they mean by transmutes, and I don't really know the mysticism in this world. So, consciousness doesn't come out with a, I guess maybe. Glory doesn't make sense. Love, nothing. I don't think. In with a breath and out with a word. Okay, well, nothing specific comes in and out. I mean, unless we're talking about, like, microorganisms and stuff. Nothing transmutes upon death, but it can't be conferred. Nothing might actually be the answer here. It's not. I don't think it's life. Because life doesn't come out with a word. Life can be conferred, apparently. They're doing it at the order of truth. Alright, well, let's say nothing and see what happens. Query. This is a pessimistic viewpoint or positivist one. It is that nothing can be taught or everything can be taught. She turns her head from side to side as if to shake loose the thought that has gotten stuck in her mind. I must abandon this line of reasoning, she concludes, ceasing her motion. I hope I do not offend. Though I don't know what she means. Query. So she's asking us a question. Is this a pessimistic viewpoint or a positivist one? Is it nothing can be taught or everything can be taught? So, I have one last question to ask of you. You may not have an answer. She looks beyond you, remaining still for some moments while the gears inside her stomach clatter and whir. Then she meets your gaze again and asks her question. What would you do if you met someone who succeeded at your life's work before you and they refused to share their method? So this might be referring to the resonance chamber that we are attempting to repair. And I'm wondering if she's a cast-off. If we got this tattoo from being a cast-off, then, and she has the same one possibly, but I don't know if the changing god ever inhabits these kind of machine bodies. She's obviously conscious, or sentient. I mean, conscious, obviously. Sentient in some way, kind of like the foreman in the underbelly. Before you, and they refused to share their method. I would find my own method, or find a new life's work. So I would find my own method if I was passionate about it and wanted to continue, or I would perhaps find a new life's work. So I would find my own method. That would doubtless be difficult, she says, and that's true. It would be. We may not be successful at something like that. The darkness behind her eyes whirls with glints of metal as her pupils dilate fully. They snap back to normal and she bows slightly. I wish you luck in your endeavor. I have no more questions for you. So we're going to try. I wonder if I want to do this first. So we have natural lore, and I think I figured out it is either or that you can use. So we will use our natural lore even with, so just our base level is 65. I wonder what happens with her. She's 70 base. I think that's because she has both machinery and natural lore. So that's what's going on, because we have natural lore, and then we have the edge now, and then we have the esoteric knowledge as well, which is 10. It's not 15. That's why it's 5% less. So it's a little better for Callistake. What's his? It won't be as high. No, it's not. So let's go ahead. We will expend 1 point and see if she can help us out. To continue. So we were successful. You study her cracked porcelain skin, the way her joints are covered by the seams in her clothing, and what once must have been a remarkably pretty face. Yeah, her face seemed kind of, said there was like caked layers of makeup and stuff like that. You recall a fragment of ancient machine history discovered by your sire in a place called the Wheel of Baz, or Wheel of Baz. Automatons like Sylph were created, so she is an automaton. Like Sylph were created in many different shapes to please their owners. No two alike, all handcrafted and unique. Only a few survivors were known to the machine minds of Baz, and those who went for sale to for sale to the highest bidder. It seems likely that Sylph started her life as one of these abandoned constructs, having somehow retained her consciousness despite supposed deactivation. For good or ill, she is now her own person, and from the sound of her inner workings, one with an expiration date. She's probably been around for quite some time. I wonder, so you recall a fragment of ancient machine history, so she could be quite ancient, discovered by your sire, our sire, the changing god, in a place called the Wheel of Baz, so very old. I'd like to find out more about that. So let's ask, who are you? I am Sylph, she states simply, inclining her head towards you with an audible click. I am at your service. Okay, so unfortunately, that stopped us from using our anamnesis. I was hoping... Who are you again? I am Sylph, she says. How may I assist you? Farewell. I was hoping that it wouldn't do that and I could get some information. No, we don't get to do it again. So that's too bad that it stopped us from using our anamnesis. Now, we're not skilled in it anyway, so we may not have been successful. But
On my way.
I am sure that she will come up later. Let's speak to Tarnak. Tarnak Hobbs. This man's brow is creased with worry. He avoids your gaze, his eyes fixed on a point to your left and far away. His trembling, battered fingers pluck at the air. He stares through the chattering customers, the bar, as though he is utterly alone. Stepping closer, you see a thick blue crease running down his throat to the depths of his heavy robes, and orderly rows of azure holes pierce his bony arms from elbow to wrist. Interesting. So, orderly rows of azure holes pierce his bony arms. Discord, he says as you approach. Scarred melody, too many voices. Hurts. His words stream out one by one in a subdued and continuous monotone, tumbling over each other as if it were in a blind rush to escape. So I'll study the man. He does not meet your eyes as you step closer to examine him. Instead, he winces as though your presence is somehow painful to him. You watch him move and track the twitching of his fingertips. You hear a low, vibrating whistle, though it is not coming from his mouth. What are you doing here? We'll see if he speaks. So, wayfarers bring me broken Numenera. I repair them for pay. I need to eat. He cries, and you don't think you're the target of his anger. Oh, okay. Well, he was saying that a little louder than I did, but that's fair. The wayfarers thank me, he says, swallowing. They do not know that I have remade their Numenera. They do not know they will also be remade. All will be remade when the choir awakens. The choir, I wonder what that is. Can you remake any of my Numenera? Instead of asking to see your belongings, he looks at you for the first time. His pupils are as dark as the space between the stars. No, he says after a long moment. His eyes flicker back to whatever distant, terrible place has so captured his attention. You're wounded. A broken instrument. He has no use for you. Tell me what you're doing here again. You didn't even look at my belongings. Do I have anything you can remake? Let's see what he says. No, you are worthy, but broken. This time, he doesn't look at you. What are you staring at? The grand hall, the spiral pinned by broken columns, the invisible roof. He stops with a gasp, and tears roll down his dirty cheek. He tells me not to share our secrets with you. You are not of the choir. You are Discord. A cold wind coils down from the rooftop, flicking at his tattered robes, and our perception skill coming into play here. Suddenly, you hear something beneath the flute-like notes of the breeze over the holes in the man's skin. A dry, angry voice speaking the word, Akar. Must not speak of Akar, he thinks. Akar? What does that mean? So we can just force the subject. So so you hear something beneath the flute-like tones of the breeze over the holes of the man's skin. A dry, angry voice speaking the word. Okay, so flute-like notes, the breeze over the holes. Okay, so I don't know if the holes in his skin have anything to do with this voice, but hey, let's ask about it. Why not? You may as well have slapped the man. Oh, excuse me. White with shock, he doubles over, clutching at his chest. Beneath the man's agony, you sense otherworldly indignation and ageless despair, deep as oceans. Great Akar was once the mightiest of cities, and it will rise once more when the choir awakens. His gaze meets yours. The conductor will reward your curiosity and allow me to tell you what I have seen. You need only ask. Okay, so I wish to know what you have seen. Before my becoming, I found a pit ringed by stone, deep in the Arvrin wood, broken pillars at the edges. I stepped inside, breathed the dusty air. He pauses, passing a shaking hand over his mouth. I was lost in the grand hall for days, decades, pillars twisting like hallways, spiraling, the ringing of bells, whirling chandeliers, listening to the song of the lost choir. I was an audience becoming an instrument. Finally I slept, and I woke here upon the heights. He took my voice, the man says, his eyes dull and distant. But my blood sings. I am becoming. I dream. And I remake Numenera for wayfarers so they will become and dream as well. And together we will go into the forest, to the ring where the grand hall once stood, and rebuild. He falls silent, eyes wide and wet, as if dreaming of the city that lives in his mind. So, what do you think you're becoming? You said that you dream. What of? So, let's ask about his dream first. Proud Akar at its peak, he says, gaze locked in the distant ruins of the city. Instruments of metal and flesh ringing the balconies of the grand hall. The conductor, our air, breathing him in forever. So what do you think you're becoming? An instrument, he says, swaying. A doorway. Before, I remade Numenera. Now I wake and I find devices the conductor has made for me. He is generous. Look, he says, smiling, pulling aside his robes to bare his bony chest. Countless devices are embedded in his flesh, looping bloodlessly in and out of his ribs, linked by tubes or wire to an opalescent sphere at the base of his throat. Okay, so I think that that is all the information we can get from him. But, well, let's see. You didn't even look at my blind. Let's see what he says now. No, you are not worthy but broken. This time he doesn't look at you. So he won't repair. I was thinking of the ring, actually. I don't know if it's Numenera. It must be because it's old. But anyway, interesting fellow. Let's head down to Cliff's Edge and see if there's any passage up that way to that cave.
All right.
But before we do that, we are going to take a very quick break. So we will be back shortly. We will pause it here, and we will see you soon. Soon. All right, folks, and we are back. So, we're going to take a quick look at the map, see if there's anything. This might lead somewhere, and we kind of looked at it, excuse me,
Yes.
before. Is there anything here we can interact with? No. But we can view these. We viewed them before. People appear to be, oh, look, we can interact with this over here. Maybe this leads up. Let's see. This house was reduced to rubble when part of the cliff face collapsed. There is evidence that the squatters have slept here recently. A ragged blanket, rotted fruit peelings, and footprints in the dust itself. Something scratches deep within the rubble. It sounds like someone or something is in there. So we'll just ask hello. The rubble makes no response. We'll dig into it. You crawl partway inside, pushing aside boards and a thin slab of slate. A small girl gasps, throwing up a hand to block the sudden light. She's young, no more than 10 or 11 years old. She has made herself as small as possible to fit inside the tiny gap in the rubble. Her hair is dark and curly. She pulls herself deeper into the rubble, away from you. She almost sounds feral. So, let's say, come on out, I won't hurt you. She shakes her head vigorously, trying to shoo you away. You hear a voice behind you. I told you patience would pay off, lads. Some thugs stroll over. They all carry weapons at their sides, though they walk with the cocky assurance of those who don't expect to need them. I swear I checked this hovel, says one of them. She wasn't here. No one was. How did this draft find her so easily? He gestures dismissively in your direction. So these are just thugs. I don't know if there will be a fight coming up. Don't fret it, Bega. The thug looks you up and down, then calls out in the direction of the rebel. Come on, little bird. Doesn't matter how good you are at hiding. You had to come out sometime. So there she is. Her name is Rin. The girl huddles behind you, keeping you between her and the thugs. Even so, it's obvious she's not sure about you either.
Don't let them take me, please.
Some voiceover. Why don't you want to go with them? To the men, well, they are called thugs, some metagaming there. To the men, do you know this girl? To the men, why were you looking for her? So, why don't you want to go with them? Let's see if she says anything. One of the men interrupts. She's lost, he says. The little urchin ran away from her home. Her mother asked us to find her and bring her back safely. I don't believe them. To the girl, is that true? No, she grabs your wrist. They're bad men. They want to steal me. Kidnappers? Now that's just crude, the man crosses his arms. We're delivery men, that's all. The means and motivations of our employers ain't none of our business. He sighs, dropping his facade. He turns to you with a look that pleads for understanding. But, all right, yeah, there is a slaver who might put up a fine bounty if we bring her back. It's all legal and none of your business. Best you stay out of it. Sorry, my cat just jumped up on my desk quite aggressively. He says the words kindly enough, but his colleagues' hands are on their weapons. It's not like I want to work for the slavers, but jobs are scarce as it is. So he doesn't want to be a slaver. And so this kind of, I was ready for a fight, but I don't necessarily want to kill them as much as I did previously now. But we'll see. You can't take me. Her grip on your wrist tightens. He found me. He has the discoverer's right. He raises an eyebrow, a bemused smirk playing on his face. Is that so? Well, Spider Jack, what do you say? Is she coming with us, or are we taking her from you? So, just try and take her from me. Persuasion. It doesn't matter if it's legal. Slavery is evil, and you're a part of it. True. And deception. Her master has grown tired of waiting for you. I've been sent to collect the girl in your stead and tell you the bounty's off. So, I think I'm going to say number 1. They may not want to fight me. I mean, they have their hands on their weapons, but we're pretty good in a fight, and I'm not too scared of them. So we'll see. Well, I don't have good intimidation. So, and in fact, I have inability in intimidation. Let's try persuasion instead, because then Tybur can help us either way, potentially, but I know I can't do intimidation. So yes, he can. 45, and he jumps up to 50. Does Callistake have any bonuses? No. So 50, and we go up to 90 here. So let's go ahead and do that. So we were successful. He mulls over what you said, scowling as he does. Skist, he says finally. Fine, I'm out. He storms off, no longer looking you in the eye. He's right, damn it. I can't face my family after doing a job like this. So, kind of glad we didn't have to kill him. He feels some guilt for what he's been doing. Sounds like he was kind of forced into the position. So, just because of the scarcity of jobs, it sounds like.
Oh God, thank you. They were going to take me back to that woman. I've never met anyone so cruel. When she found me the first time she even... My apologies. I'm still out of sorts. You have my thanks and grace, sir.
For a moment, it looks like she might hug you, but at the last moment she seems to think better of it and pulls up short a half-dozen steps away. She collects herself, standing straight with her shoulders back. Then she nods, the gesture so polite it's almost formal. She may come from some kind of noble background.
My name is Rin. My home and hearth and bread are yours to use. Except I don't have any of those things.
She blushes then, looking around self-consciously. So how long were you hiding in that building? What's a little girl doing all alone here? It's not safe here. You should come with me. And farewell, Rin. So, how long were you hiding in that building? She blinks a little, as if confused or surprised at your question. Then she looks around, shifting nervously from foot to foot. This is my place. This is where I sleep. So, this is your home? She looks shattered at the shattered wreckage. No, this is just where I was staying. I ran away. My home is a long way from here. So, where are you from? She looks out at the horizon and makes a vague gesture. Really far away, but I'm not sure exactly which direction. She looks around a little, almost as if she were seeking a familiar landmark. It has to be a long way from here. My home isn't anything like this. There were trees upon trees. The trees here aren't trees like... The young girl squints off into the distance. After a moment, her eyes go distant, and you realize she probably isn't going to finish her sentence. You were saying something about trees. Where were you from again? What are you doing all alone here? You were saying something about trees. She looks at you oddly. What? No, I wasn't. So, interestingly, she doesn't seem to have a completely intact stream of consciousness. And we don't know if that's trauma or if there's something else going on. Without seeming to realize what she's doing, the girl brushes her hand through her hair, and you see the side of her head has been shaved. Large stitches run along her scalp, holding together an ugly cut longer than her hand. The wound is purple and angry, looking only just beginning to heal. It can't be more than a week old, so blunt trauma to the head sounds like a head injury, and so she may be suffering from some amnesia due to that. So what happened to your head? Her body grows tense for a moment, her eyes darting around as if deciding whether or not to run away. She glances at the rubble where she had hidden from the thugs. She relaxes, though her eyes are still wary. I was running away. There were some people, bad people. I ran away and got hurt. Your scar looks pretty bad. Are you okay? What people were you running away from? Who stitched your head back together? Your story doesn't fit. Who fixed your wound and shaved your head? You could hardly sit up. How did you keep running? Well, in the moment, adrenaline, all that kind of stuff, perhaps. But who stitched up your head? For just a moment, her eyes flash with panic again, and they dart around like she's getting ready to run. Then she touches the side of her head gingerly. I don't remember what happened exactly, but I got away and I ran, and I ended up here. Your scar looks pretty bad. Are you okay? She makes a dismissive gesture towards her temple. It's fine. It looks a lot worse than it is, and a lot better than yours anyway. She smirks, touching the side of her head. The haircut is pretty awful, though, isn't it? I don't think they really needed to shave quite this much, do you? I don't know. I think it looks dashing, fashionable even. You might start a trend. I don't know if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. I'm having some trouble with my memory, too. I know what it's like. I think that's a good response, actually. Our gold tide raised, a small amount. She looks up at you for a long moment and slowly lets her smile slip away. Without it, she seems even smaller. She nods gravely. At first, it was pretty bad. I couldn't stay awake or stand up. Even talking was hard. But it's a little better every day. It doesn't hurt so much anymore, but sometimes I still get dizzy when moving around too fast, and I forget things. She smiles bravely and touches the side of her head again. She has touched it a lot, pressing with her fingertips. But it's a little better every day, she says again, in exactly the same tone as before, as though she doesn't realize she's already said it. It doesn't hurt so much anymore, but sometimes I still get dizzy when I move around too fast, and I forget things. There's a long pause. She stares at you blankly for a moment, her mouth opens slightly. So obviously this head wound has had an effect on her. And we assume it's a head wound, perhaps from a weapon or something like that, but maybe something else happened and someone did something to her mind. That's also a possibility. That doesn't match her story, but we don't know if her story is true. Not that she's necessarily lying, but she may have an alternate memory. Maybe they can be implanted. Who knows? Suddenly, her eyes lose their vacant look and a grin spreads across her face. I'm just kidding. I mean, I do sometimes forget things, a little, but that was a joke, she says, then blushes a little and looks down, sheepishly. Not sure if I believe her. What people were you running from? Your story doesn't fit. Is there anything I can do to help? All right, let's talk about something else. So what people were you running away from? She opens her mouth and closes it again. She nods and puts her hands back into her pocket absent-mindedly. I don't really remember. I think they were stealers? No, what's the word? Robbers. They wanted to rob me. Okay, so thieves, apparently, thugs. Is there anything I can do to help? She shrugs nonchalantly. I don't know. I'm pretty good here, unless you happen to have any spare food you aren't using, or water, or a blanket, or a new bed or house, or, anything at all. Rin starts out talking with a playful smile on her face, but then her eyes well up. Her voice stays cheerful even as the tears are running down her cheeks. She wipes them away, embarrassed and angry, but her hands are shaking now, and there are more tears, and words continue to pour out of her. We'll see. She doesn't have anything, so she's not pretty good here. I offer apologies. It's just that I've been hungry for days. I don't know where I am. My head hurts and nothing makes sense. She laughs, then helplessly, with a tinge of trembling panic finally bleeding into her tone. God's around me. I'm all broken in my head. The moon is wrong, and I'm so tired of being scared all the time. So we could give her some shins. I'll take care of you. Come with me. So we could bring her with us. There's probably some better places we could drop her off. So let's see that. That's probably better than just giving her money. She is pretty young. She blinks up at you and gives a huge grin. Really? She looks at the tiny nook she was hiding in, then back at you. Where are you going? I don't know, but you'll be safer with me than you will here. That's true. Maybe we can find you a doctor. Maybe we can find you a new home. Maybe we can find you a new home. Rin frowns at that, though she seems to consider your offer. But what about those thugs? What if somebody else comes after me? Or after you? I'm not a fighter. I can't help you. It's dangerous whether you stay here alone or come with me. At least with me, you can learn to take care of yourself. Don't worry about that. I'll keep you out of trouble. Or, you're right. I can't afford to take someone with me who can't defend themselves. So we'll have to stay safe while we have her, if we do have her. So it's true that it's dangerous. And she can learn to take care of herself, and I'll keep you out of trouble. I would prefer that she learn to take care of herself. She is, like I said, 10 or 11. So she's old enough that she can learn some skills. I guess so. She sets her jaw and then nods. All right, I'll do it. So let's go. So she's going to follow us.
Of course we can help. Right, Al?
So, we have a child. Let's take a look around.
Why not?
And let's see if we can't, and we'll interact with this stuff later. Now, our priority number one, I would say, is finding this young girl a home. Now, there is up here, this here, it seemed like a type of hospital. I'm not entirely sure. But let's go speak to them, see what they say, because she might need some medical treatment. So, Jurna. This old man's skin is covered in makeup painstakingly drawn to resemble dark stone. His eyes widen briefly as he notices you, and his face and neck hardens into actual obsidian for a moment. He then smiles and nods at you, his features mobile once more. Welcome, welcome, he says. Sorry about the stone. Polymorphic flesh modification, you see. I didn't see you walk up, and I assumed you were going to cut my throat and take my chirurgical parlor for yourself. Hey, the day's young. Why would you think such a thing? I do good business here, the old man shrugs. If I were a younger man looking to make a name for myself in the city, I'd kill me too. Okay, interesting. My chirurgical parlor is a marvel of the prior world, you see. Just pick an item or a service, pay my outrageous fees, and only after a short to long period of fairly safe but indescribable agony, you walk away with some horrible Numenera bits whirring away inside of you. He pokes a few buttons on a device strapped to his wrist, and lights twinkle across its length. A dark, glassy lens focuses on you. Well, interested? I can't help noticing that you're a very honest man. How did you come to own this parlor? Show me a list of your items and services. So, Callisteg has an implant in her eye, so maybe that has something to do with the kind of work that he does. But I can't help but notice you're a very honest man. Well spotted, he says, nodding. Clear streaks of quartz run up his prominent cheekbones, revealing the muscle beneath. It's a side effect of my modifications. Couldn't lie to you if you begged me to. Okay, so he's not doing it on purpose. He shrugs. Honesty is usually a hindrance to a businessman, but people seem to like it. It's a blessing, in my opinion. So, he didn't, he's probably normal, or maybe he didn't come by it naturally before, but now he has to. And he appreciates the fact that he is forced to be honest. So, show me your list of items and services. Of course, he says, tapping a few buttons on the broad device encircling his wrist. The lens beams a cone of light directly onto your eye, which immediately begins watering. Blinking, you see a menu of items seemingly hanging in the air. So it sounds like we can have some kind of enhancements here, but this is not a place for a small child. So, the clawed gauntlets, the jagged memory, the encroaching darkness, what are blood nanites? The Numenera analyzer sounds safest. An artificial eyeball, really? How painful are these procedures? Can I ask you some questions about something else? So, blood nanites, Numenera analyzer, the encroaching darkness, the jagged memory. I'm wondering if, like, so, which immediately begins, of course he says, show me a list of your items. I don't know if this happens when we do it. So how painful are these procedures? That is a popular question, he says, and it does vary from procedure to procedure. But if you're seeking a general area, he taps his chin thoughtfully. My customers usually range between shrieking for a merciful death and groaning while soiling themselves. If that helps. But they almost always seem happy with the results when they survive. He smiles. Now, are you ready to buy something? Let's see what the jagged memory is. This, he says with a raised finger, is a tricky one. It's a mesh that fuses with your old skin, leaving jagged marks like tattoos. When you attack, you'll always hit your enemy's old wounds, even if they weren't there before. I told you it was a tricky one. He beams proudly. Yours for 110 shins. Oh, no thank you. We can't say yes. Maybe we don't have 110 shins. Your loss, he says. Interested in anything else? So, what are blood nanites? It's quite simple, he says. The drones fill your blood with millions of tiny machines that promptly begin devouring you alive until they learn to differentiate between your body and anything that's not supposed to be in there. After that, they'll do their level best to purge toxins and illnesses from your body with every pump of your heart. He pauses. In case that wasn't clear, this one is really gonna hurt. 95 shins, paid in advance, please. So, no thank you. I think we'll leave him for now, but it sounds like we can get some, essentially, upgrades. So, we will keep that in mind. How much money do we have? 89, so we cannot afford much at all. Let's head out of this area, because this is not a place where it is likely we are going to find a home, I believe. Maybe Caravanserai is a better place. There are people that live here, so maybe there is someone here that's appropriate, but... Alright, so this brought us here again. The underbelly has folks, but that's kind of... Not sure if I would want to take her there. There is Prada. There was a child running over here. Let's go. And there's children here.
How many of you are there exactly?
Imagine the largest number you can think of. Multiply it by itself, as many times as itself, and you will have gotten very nearly halfway there.
So Rin...
I didn't think it was possible, but you just made my head hurt more.
So Rin talking to Callistag about her... these emanations of her other existences. Her other instances of herself is probably a better way to describe it. And they exist in other timelines, kind of, she said. So they're like branching off. And I believe that time travel is a bit of a part of the theme in this game. So we'll see if that becomes relevant when we do that. So let's go down here. Got Padja and Kellinor. And I do remember them from the first times I played. So let's talk to them and see if they can help us out. So, Padja. This couple stands together, their shared gaze fixed away from you. No words pass between them. Instead, they share a silent language of tenderness. Their bodies turn subtly toward each other, forming a private space between them. His hand reaches for hers, and without looking, she claims it. Still looking past you, they smile together. His is a curving line carved in oak. Hers as unabashed and radiant as a lantern on a starless night. He's so beautiful. I do hope we're a good home for him. Turning, you see the object of their attention. A young boy darting between the stalls and playing in the dust. Each distant, exhilarated shout widens their respective smiles and tightens their grip on each other. So, our perception skill coming into play. But all is not entirely well here. Your sharp eyes notice their knuckles whitening on their joined grip, and slivers of sorrow or fear in their eyes. The child's joy seems to be a source of pain for them as well. Let's ask, is that your son? Yes, he says firmly, still watching the boy. He's still watching the boy, but a wary stillness has spilled into his posture. She swats his shoulder, and there's more punch than playfulness in it. Not yet, she says. We adopted Jerem, and we're waiting to see how he feels about that. Aren't we, Kellinor? His eyes flicker stubbornly, but he does not respond. Go away. Go away. He may be talking about us. I think he is. So, well, we're not going to leave just yet, because we have a child, and they apparently want one. So, why did you decide to adopt? Well, Kellinor and I, we've been together for how long? Years, Kellinor says, a glint in his eye. Let's see how long this one lasts. Okay, so they have done this before, and who knows what happens to the children. And we knew we wanted children, so we tried and tried. We tried a lot. Some days I barely had time to put on my clothes before Kel took them off again. Interesting, go on, because we want to continue talking to them. Paja raises her eyebrows, but continues. Well, there was poor Kel, but practically falling asleep on the shift, forgetting his trousers half the time, and me with nothing to show for it but a glow on my cheeks. Clearly, we were working with a barren field. Or faulty seeds, Kellinor adds, deadpan. Does run in the family. So we decided to find a child who needed a home rather than getting old trying to make one of our own, Paja says. That answer your question? More than adequately. Sorry, I'm going to need more details. She laughs. Paja says, swatting at you. I like this one, Kel. He hardly blushed at all. She leans in and lowers her voice. We get asked this question a lot, and finally we found that being explicit about the process usually makes questions just melt away. So they wanted us to go away, but we didn't go away. And there's a reason for that. And once again, our ability to scan their thoughts told us that. So I intentionally pursued the line of questioning, hoping that we would be able to kind of make a breakthrough, and we'll see what happens. Tibir says, you've been talking a lot of the wrong sort of people then, Tibir says, grinning over at you. We just love asking questions. Kellinor chuckles at this, but says nothing more. What brings you here? Jerem likes it, Kellinor says. The stern expression around his stern eyes softens somewhat. We don't have much time between shifts, Paja explains. Our money to spend on fripperies, so we bring him to the market when we can and watch him play. It's better than a night at the theater. Kellinor raises their clasped hands and kisses her bruised knuckles. Why are you out here again? Jerem likes it. So do we. So we do too. Okay, so I think they're just going to repeat that. Farewell. Well, it's a little unfortunate that we did not manage to bring up anything about the child that is with us. And that's fine. She can stay with us for a while. We actually don't get into fights too often. Oh, hey, Rin, over here. Rin, the boy shouts, throwing out his arms as if to hug her. You're safe. She steps back, looking him up and down. Hello, rude boy. This is Otero, she tells you. A scrounger. We met outside of town. He helped me, but then he left. She glares at him like she's trying to knock him over, right before That woman stole me. His eyes widen. Slavers? Tell me they didn't. They did. I told you what would happen if you brought me to them, didn't I? But I didn't bring them. I told you I wouldn't do that. I was mad, but... He glares at her. I wouldn't. I didn't. She traded fair. I was just mad, but I left and forgot. Nothing more. So he's telling the truth. Don't worry, Rin. You're with me now. I think he's telling the truth, Rin. It doesn't seem like the type to sell it to a friend. I don't buy it. People like him are always... So we're going to tell her that he's telling the truth. Or indigo tide raised. Well, she says to him, she eyes him distrustfully. I still don't know if I can trust him. He's a very rude boy. He stares at her, chewing his lip, clearly trying to work up the courage to talk to her, to convince her of something. Finally, with a wry twist of his mouth, he turns back at you. Look, he says, running a hand over his stubbled scalp. You hide it well, but I can tell you're new here. And I ain't trying to offend you, but I don't like leaving folk new to Sagas on their own. If you have questions about the city, or Circus Minor in particular, I'll answer them, free of charge. His eyes steal to Rin again, almost too quick to notice, so he's paying attention to her. He may have a crush on her or something like that. They're friends and they were fighting, but you don't know. But he's obviously has an interest in her. And feels bad that she is upset with him. Of course, it looks like you already have a guide, he says, nodding at Callistag. Callistag. So he knows who she is. Why is this freshie traveling with her? She scares the talk out of me. She is a bit of a frightening woman. Very kind of... she's enthusiastic, but also kind of very calculating. And almost not cold, but definitely steely in her demeanor. Not steely in her demeanor per se, actually, but steely in her thought patterns. She's very direct. She has a goal, and she really keeps her eye on that goal, and she's very driven by knowledge and finding things out. And it sounds like she's done some questionable things in the past, Callistag, but we don't know a lot of details, and we don't know how true some of those things were that for instance, Alagern accused her of, like the vivisection and that kind of thing. Hello, dear, your companion says politely before turning to you. Matero knows this city better than almost anyone, and it's quite unlike him to give anything away for free, let alone his terribly valuable advice. Do take him up on his offer. Nice of you to say, Otero says, eyeing you. Well, perception coming into play here. His gaze flicks back to Callistag briefly, as if he expects her to lunge at any moment. You live here. I'm looking for the cult. Let's see. Let's ask about the place to sleep around here. See if he only mentions the place in Caravanserai. Tranquility. That's what it's called. The Cult of Changing God might let you sleep in their camp, or you can try Tranquility's Rest in Caravanserai. Okay, so interesting. We might be able to sleep with the Cult of the Changing God. That encourages me to speak to them sooner, because it is awfully expensive to rest. 60 Shin, and we don't have a lot of Shin. So let's see what he says just about the city in general. We've explored quite a bit, but I want to see what he has to say. Depends on what you want to know, he says. I spent most of my time in Circus Minor, but there's other districts too. Government Square, Cliff's Edge, the Underbelly, and Caravanserai. He scratches his chin. There's also the Reef of Fallen Worlds, but you've already been down there. So, we already know quite a bit about these, and so I'm not going to speak to him about that. He did not take Rin along with him. And, I mean, I don't know... Ooh, yeah, this guy... we're gonna check him out soon. So maybe what we're going to do, if we go to the cult, I think that's going to progress our main quest, and that's fine. Here's a child. I don't know what is on the map. We've got to Cliff's Edge. That's just these here are shops and stuff. There's not much in terms of houses here. And quite frankly, I'm okay if she tags along with this. I am a little concerned if we get in a fight. I'm not sure if we'll control her or anything, or what will happen in terms of game mechanics. I don't want to put her in danger, that's for sure. but a fight can break out at any time. So for now, we'll keep her with us, and we'll see what happens. And I think maybe we go, maybe the cultists will take her in, and I don't know a lot about them, because I've been kind of avoiding them, both to pursue some of these side quests, but also because, oh, One True Love, what's that? Oh, right, that's a different quest. Both because I wanted to explore some of these side quests before pursuing kind of the main quest, but also I'm a little wary of them. I'm kind of looking for more information about the crystalline chamber and repairing it before I go and talk to them, because I don't know what to expect with them, and I haven't had many opportunities to ask people about them. Although, actually, speaking of which, Otero, I think I saw a response. So let's see if I was right. I'm looking for the Cult of the Changing God. Let's see what he says about them, if he has anything to say. Well, you're not going to be able to miss them, he says, smirking. They're camped around that weird clock on the other side of the square. He settles his hands on his hips. What do you want with those Karkers anyway? They owe you something? Yes, I'm the Changing God. I need to ask them a few questions. Fair enough, he says, shrugging. Even Karkers get it right sometimes, so he thinks they're like a little crazy. But I was hoping he'd give us a little bit more information, and that might be generally what people think about them, but we don't know that much. And I think it's going to be about time that we speak with them soon. Maybe we'll explore a little bit of this stuff here, and I'm still hoping to get an invite to the Memovira, but it might be the case that we need to pursue some of these avenues and get more involved. I know that she's obviously interested in the Order of Truth, so that's one avenue. And maybe we go speak to them as well and see if they have anything to tell us about Memovira. But we are going to leave it there. A little shorter for the last couple episodes, but we'll leave it there for now. And we will see you